Hey everyone, today I'm going to talk about the Foggy and my thought process on when making teams, or rather to go over the most basic things that everybody should know. So first off, when you load Foggy, you will see these two icons. They're basically buffs for the current active Foggy. They change each Foggy, so there's 4 different variations, but they're pretty similar to each other. The very different one is the third Foggy when there's no Holy Shield, or it was fourth, either or. You will basically see it. Now this Foggy makes shields 10 times higher and it increases the HP, so heroes like Alice can be exceptional in here. So if you have no hero that's better than Alice, you can run her with someone like Wu Zetian, with someone like Gloria, for example, and basically have infinite shields providing, but shields can be countered and cleared, so yeah, this is only a Hail Mary team. If you can't afford a better team, for example, you could run something like this. I'm pretty sure Vittoria also applies shields, so if you have Monarchs, you can have with Pandora, and yeah, basically a pretty cheap team to make and a pretty strong one. It will not beat the Phantoms or Dooms, but yeah, it's pretty good to try and work overall. But this was not something I wanted to talk about, but yeah, just saying you can play around these buffs. Janna is also amazing with this shield buff, so they're not something to be neglected. You can definitely make some heroes that can work with the buffs. So now let's start. So there are plenty heroes that do not pair with each other, and mainly we can section them to the Phantom Illusion effect. So you will definitely never pair Wu Zetian and Sheng because they both apply Phantom Illusion and they will basically cancel each other out. And you can also add Lancelot and Aphrodite here, and that's the 4 Phantom Illusion heroes that you will basically never pair together. So we can remove Sheng from here and we can move her to the team 2, for example. If we assume we will be using her, we can spread it out by adding Aphrodite here and then Lancelot in here. So now you have fully spread out your Phantom Illusion heroes to 4 different teams so they don't cancel each other out. Now to turn back to team 1, with Odora you are definitely going to be using Elisha. Those two basically go together. You want Odora in position 5 to increase her damage. And another thing you can do is use Odora in position 1 because she will use her ultimate upon dodging the attack, and that's basically additional ultimate to all enemies, which means additional freeze, additional damage, but it comes at the risk of getting fatal damage far faster than in the position 5, but it's pretty optional. I keep Wu Zetian in position 1 because she has 33% chance to negate the damage, so that's basically why. Apart from these 3, I consider these 3 to be core heroes. Now, Wu Zetian is pretty optional, but I think Wu Zetian fits these 2 like 99 out of 100 times. And then basically the other 2 slots are fillers. So a lot of people are actually using Pandora with Elisha and Odora. And it's pretty understanding why, like, this is a glass cannon team that basically relies on killing all enemies at round 2 or round 1. Pandora excels with that, especially with Odora. Each kill means Odora will cast one more ultimate, Pandora will follow, and yeah, you basically have a snowball machine, and then you can fill it with those. For example, someone like Odin, to basically have no holy shields on enemy team, therefore Odora and Pandora can go wild, and you can stack Pandora and the Odin's passive for snowball ultimates as well. I personally don't really like this. I find this to be overkill, and I find it to be pretty bad because one bad Leviathan effect and the entire team falls apart. So I think this is okay. I don't think you should be using Odin in here, and then you can fit in a Monarch, like third Monarch for a better survival, or you can fit it someone for speed, so your Odora will always outspeed enemies or enemy Odora. So someone like Gaia is okay, or someone like Behemoth. Now what I personally do, I do double 2 Ethereals and 3 Glorians, because I don't find Ethereals, or especially Odora, I find it hard to use her if she gets stunned like round 1 to round 2, and basically Glorians will not allow that to happen. So what I end up using is something like this. For example, I end up using 3 Monarchs, I end up using Yorm for better Odora increase on the damage, and Audrey to steal Holy Shields if possible. Now this way I have CC immunity and I have 3 Glorians for better survival, and therefore I have a seasonal synergy which will heal me each round. I think this team is fairly balanced. I'm not really sure if it's too broken or not, but it will still lose to some things such as better Phantom Illusion like Avengers or Phantoms, or very likely Leviathan / Dooms. For relics, you usually want to have a recovery relic that casts instantly. If you cannot get a 9-star relic, please just use this relic. This relic into basically any other 100 energy relic will pretty much give you an instant immunity from that. For example, you can use this, as this is a quite cheap death negation effect, because the vase will trigger, then it will trigger Sarko, and then it will trigger the Cauldron, and basically your team is immortal for the whole round, and then the damage gets split on the front line, so you don't really have to worry about it. But yeah, this team is, in my opinion, a very solid team. I don't consider it to be broken. As I said, it's like a good A-tier team. It can beat a lot of teams, it can lose to plenty of teams, so yeah, pretty solid middle, which doesn't require a lot of investment for a mid team in my opinion, and leaves on other better units to other teams. For artifact, you can use increase on Ethereals, you can use some Holy Shields if you feel like you need them. You can use this relic. This relic is really amazing with Pandora and Elisha. Basically, you kill all enemies round 1. You can also use the... I don't have it yet, but you can use the stun round 1 relic, which is really good on this team. So either of these will do the job. I personally end up using Ethereals increase to attack for my Odora. So that's pretty much team 1. And yeah, this is how you build around Odora. As I said, there's plenty of other options. You can use mono Ethereals, especially in this Foggy, because there's shield higher and HPR, so Amaterasu is exceptionally great in this. And you can end up using Karnak for the bind effect, and then you would feed the last slot typically with a Deviant hero, because you really want 2 Deviants, 2 Celestials in all teams, so you would end up using either Wukong or Hela or Lilith. And that's pretty much it for this team. Consider this as a mini PvP guide, I guess. Not really, I won't go over other teams, maybe in other videos, but just a base logic of how I do teams when I do them. You can also replace Lilith for another Deviant. There's plenty of Deviants such as Gaia, as I mentioned. You can use it for speed advantage. There's also 3 Protectors, which isn't all that bad at all. You can use Leviathan if you feel like it, but I don't recommend wasting Leviathan on a Odora team. I personally find Leviathan best paired with Aphrodite, because the only hero that can beat Aphrodite is Leviathan, so you will just use your own Leviathan and thus negate the effect of Leviathan in the enemy team. Another hero people tend to use, or rather used, is Astrid with this, and basically make Odora ult 3 times. With the seasonal content you can make that if you adjust the speed of all heroes in the team to make Odora second fastest hero in this team. So it's pretty possible, but it's tedious. And obviously another best hero you can use is Yorm, but she's quite expensive and not really free to play friendly. And obviously Pandora. So yeah, hopefully I went over the most basics of Ethereal team. Like, it's pretty flexible. Elisha and Odora are the 2 heroes you will be using all the times. If you're someone more at the late game, you will want to use Banner on this team, and you will want to use something like this, in my opinion. So to make Odora ult round 1 and then to provide with survival. This can be tricky, but it works. I find this rally combo the best for Ethereals, but it might waste your Gleipnir if you have plans for it in other teams. I personally don't. But yeah, apart from that, you can basically also guarantee a steal from Wu Zetian with this, I would move Elisha to the front line because my Gleipnir is not 5-star, so only backline allies will ult. And yeah, I would keep something like this. Or you can also use Victoria and put her onto a Glorian, so you have more damage, more survival. And yeah, that's pretty much it about Ethereal's lineup. It doesn't really go more wide than this. That's all the basics and all the pros and cons of it. Ethereals, they are pretty weak to stun and CC and the reflect and basically a lot of revival if they can't keep up with casting, so they get outscaled quite easily. Elisha is no longer a scaling machine as she used to be. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully you have learned something new in this video. If not, I'm sorry for disappointing you. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, to play around the seasonal bonus, you can also use Alice in here and Audrey in here. So yeah, as I said, this game is pretty flexible. There is no set meta. I don't think so, at least. It's a lot of flexible units to play around, is a lot of teams to play around. Obviously, there's broken teams like Phantoms with Magatama, and there's broken units. There's a lot of broken units. But that doesn't mean the meta is completely the same, because I don't really see players using the same heroes in all teams. It's like similar ideas with a lot of similar units, but it's never really the same unless they pretty much just copy from each other, which obviously happens, but that doesn't mean it's the best, and that doesn't mean the meta is set, because in Omniheroes the meta is never really set, especially because of the Phantom Illusion RNG effect. So there's a lot of RNG in fights, and therefore there's no a team that can guarantee a win. So yeah, as I said, hopefully this video has been helpful for your Ethereals lineup learning, and see you in the next one.